Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church in Eugene. If anyone wants to come sit where the choir normally is, would make us a circle, and there's some extra seats. Robin put the hymnals on some of the chairs. My name is Molly Mae Culligan, and my pronouns are she, her. For those needing a visual description, I'm a tall woman with fine, messy hair. I've been a Unitarian Universalist since the 8th grade, and I'm now in about grade 40, if that helps. Whomever you are, whomever you love, and wherever you are, whatever your image of the holy, we are glad you're here. If today is your first time with us, whether in person or on Zoom, we welcome you. As you entered today, we had a leaflet with information for new, returning, or curious members. If you would like one, our ushers and greeters can get you one. The leaflet includes the QR code posted around the building that will give you information about the service. We hope that you will stay after service today for a holiday potluck. Even if you didn't bring anything, there is always enough food, so please know you are welcome and stay. And now, let's prepare our hearts and minds for worship. I invited Marilyn to light the chalice this morning. Thank you, Marilyn. We light the chalice, the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith, with words from the Reverend Dr. Rebecca Parker, past president of the Star King School for Ministry, Unitarian Universalist. Perhaps, for a moment, the keyboards will stop clicking, the wheels stop rolling, the computers desist from computing, and a hush will fall over the city. For an instant, in the stillness, the chiming of the celestial spheres will be heard as Earth hangs poised in the crystalline darkness and then gracefully tilts. Let there be a season when holiness is heard and the splendor of living is revealed. Stunned to stillness by beauty, we remember who we are and why we are here. There are inexplicable mysteries. We are not alone. In the universe, there moves a wild one who gestures alter Earth's axis towards love. In the immense darkness, everything spins with joy. The cosmos enfolds us. We are caught in a web of stars, cradled in a swaying embrace, rocked by the holy night, babes of the universe. And now, let's say together the words of our mission, which affirm our shared purpose. Empowered by love, we transform ourselves and serve our world.
Good morning. My name is Ryan Doppelmayr. My pronouns are she and her. And I am a middle-aged, middle-sized white woman with brown hair up in a bun and a green Christmas sweater on. And I would love to invite anyone who'd like to hear a story a little closer to come on up. I've got some carpet squares here. And I have a wonder box with something inside. And I'm not going to have anyone guess what's in there today. But maybe someone could help me explain why what's in there is in there. Let's see. Oh, I'm excited to see some new faces today. Let's see. So, yes, I'm going to take that one. I have something in here. Yes, Merwin.
It's a baby doll. Like I have a doll with me, and so does Lena.
I'm seeing a lot of dolls today. And does anyone have an idea about why
Doll.
this baby
It's black.
might be in my Wonder Box today?
You mean you're talking about Jesus?
What?
You mean you're talking about Jesus?
Maybe. Okay, got some pretty smart folks over there. Did I see a hand up from you, Steve? No. Okay, because you know what? Anyone can help with ideas here.
Maybe it was a jaguar, I think.
Maybe it was a what?
Jaguar.
A jaguar? I don't think so. Okay,
Maybe it's a black baby.
maybe. Let's see. Oh, this is my little kid Kieran's baby, actually. She likes to rock it every day. So I do have a special baby here because I'm going to tell a story that started a long time ago that some of you may have heard before. So I'm going to start the story once upon a time because that's the way a lot of good stories start. Once upon a time, a little over 2,000 years ago, in a land far, far, far away, in a place that we now call Palestine, there was a woman named Mary. And one day, she had a vision, like a dream. And an angel came to her and said, "You are going to have a very special baby. And that baby is going to grow up to be a great leader." That's pretty big news. Mary was supposed to get married to this guy called Joseph. And he also had a vision come to him, a dream, saying that his soon-to-be wife Mary was going to have a special baby. But before Mary could have this baby, they had to take a trip. They had to be part of a census, part of a government thing. So they took a long trip to a town called Bethlehem. But when they got there, the town was so crowded with visitors, there was no place for Mary and Joseph to stay. The hotel was full. The only spot they could find was a barn with some animals in it. And while they were staying there, Mary had her baby. Wow, kind of an interesting place to have a baby. Yeah. You would like to be in a barn with animals? I like animals too.
I want to eat a baby.
Okay, well, that's our barn right up there. And after that baby was born, an angel came to tell some shepherds in a field about this whole situation. These shepherds were watching over their sheep, and they heard about this amazing baby being born, and they went to go visit him in the barn. And the baby had other visitors as well. There were 3 wise men who traveled from lands far away following a bright star. And this bright star led them to where this baby was. The Magi brought the baby and his family gifts of gold and frankincense and myrrh. So it sounds like everyone's having a pretty good time, right? Doing pretty well, celebrating this new baby. Yes.
The baby is literally born in a barn.
The literally born in a barn baby, yes. But at this time, the place that they lived was controlled by Rome. And there's this guy named Herod. He was the king, and he heard that there was a baby being born who would grow up to be king, and he did not like that idea at all. He liked being the boss of things. So he decided to go on a search, to hunt for this baby, to track this baby down. I don't think he was planning on being very nice to it, do you? No, kind of a scary situation. But before Herod could find this baby, Joseph took his family and they became refugees. They ran away to a safe place. They ran to Egypt. So that baby grew up and they came back and all kinds of amazing things happened. But that's a story for another day. Okay? But a lot has changed in that place that we now call Palestine, right? A lot has changed in the last 2,000 years, but some things haven't. Right now, it's not a safe place for babies to be born, just like it wasn't 2,000 years ago. Right now, there's a war going on. And I think about the babies who are being born right there, and I compare them to that baby born 2,000 years ago. That baby Jesus was supposed to be a messenger of hope and love and joy and peace to us all. But I don't think it takes a very special baby to bring us those messages. Really, I think any baby born at all can be messages of hope and love and joy and peace for us. So, Dr. Yosef Barnwell wrote, "For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are." Every baby born is holy. Every newborn life is precious. Whether angels come and tell us about it or sirens. Every baby is a link to the people who came before us and a message from the future. A new baby. I've seen some babies here today, and we don't know. A new baby that we see today might grow up and invent a new form of renewable energy, right? A baby born in Palestine today might grow up and write a masterpiece, right? A new baby born, they might grow up and become president. A new baby being born might grow up and make the most delicious chocolate chip cookies you have ever tasted in your entire life. Or a new baby being born might just give the best hugs in the world to their siblings when they come home from school. So, I think on a day like today, talking about a special baby, it's something for us to think about if we can have a job on making the world a safer, peaceful place for all the babies in the world. And how can we spread love and joy and peace? Okay. So I have one more picture, unless I wasn't paying attention, unless Kat already shared it with us. Of a picture made long ago of this special baby named Jesus and his mother. And there's a very special baby right next to them, born in Gaza, right? So this is a good reminder to us that we can work for peace everywhere. And today we're doing things a little bit differently because I'm going to invite you guys back to the chapel with me if you'd like to come back. We're going to have a children's chapel time. And I'm going to take a little bit of the light from our chalice here back with us. Okay? If you would like to stay here with your grown-ups, you are always welcome to do so. But if you are brand new here, please come back with your grown-ups so we get to meet them.
What's going to happen?
We're going to have a little service of our own. Yeah.
Can I do that? That'll be easier.
We've been lighting the Advent candles. We started with hope, love, joy, and we light the last one today for peace. Hello, everyone. I'm the Reverend Jen Youngson. I use the pronouns she and her. And I'm very happy to see all of you. Hello, Zoom friends. We have not forgotten about you. It's good to have you all here today. Here we are on the eve of Christmas, and yet again, we, the human family, are at war. Someone once said that peace is just breathing time between wars. In other words, human beings are somehow hardwired to fight with each other. That's just the way it is. I mean, look back at the last 3,500 years. There have only been about 280 years of global peace in that time. Violence seems to be our universal language, our go-to reaction to fear and anger and vengeance. If someone attacks us, then the only thing to do is to fight back even harder. No wonder so many of us feel resigned and cynical about peace on earth, goodwill to all. As we look around the globe at the situation there, it can feel very much like there's nothing that we could possibly do. But look again. Look again. There is plenty of evidence that human beings really do know how to live together in peace. And I believe that our capacity for compassion and empathy is absolutely stronger than any tendency we might have toward violence. Since the beginning of history, there have been peacemakers and prophets of nonviolence, right? Can you name a few of those? Martin Luther King Jr., Gandhi, Maria Montessori, Desmond Tutu, Mother Teresa. We don't hear enough about them because, you know what? We study war more than we study peace. And yet everywhere on earth, there are people who are refusing to give up on peace. They use the language of forgiveness. They use the language of love, restraint, wisdom, higher consciousness. Unitarian Universalists are such people. Our strong humanist roots urge us to have faith in our capacity to grow and evolve and transform ourselves and our society. And then our spiritual roots inspire us to just keep holding that vision of peace on earth, something that we will not see in our lifetimes, but it is the only thing that is worth striving for. In that day, everyone will invite their neighbor under their vine and their fig tree. A few days ago, there was the UUCE movie night, or as they spell it, movie night. So this night we watched a documentary about this year's Earthshot Prize. One of the finalists there for the Earthshot Award was Acción Andina. In just 5 years, they have planted 10 million native trees in the Andean forest. And remember, we never plant trees for ourselves, right? We plant trees for our children and for our children's children and for the earth and all her living beings. This, my friends, is peacemaking. So come, let us be sowers of seeds. Come, let us be planters of trees. Come, let us worship together. We have an area in this corner of our sanctuary that is our joys and sorrows area. And over there you can light a candle, you can place a stone in water, and you can also write in our book. And if you do that, then we'll share those joys and sorrows, your prayers and your gratitudes during this time. And so I just want to share with you joys for Leah, Liz, Artemis, and Chris, and then more joy for our daughter here with us today from Seattle. I imagine that there are lots of family members visiting and loved ones who've come home for the holidays, and what a joy indeed. We also want to share some sorrows. Sorrow for the mom and baby who were injured last night on Gilham. And then someone writes that Sherry Wright, a trans woman who had been in hospice, died last Monday, I believe. Community stayed with her day and night, and she passed peacefully. This holiday season is an unusual one. And I know a lot of you are not feeling the bubbly joy of the holidays. There are so many of us experiencing grief during this season. So many of you have lost loved ones recently. And so this is not necessarily a time of great joy. And yet it is good to be together, to share whatever we are feeling. One of the things I'm so grateful for about this community is that there is no should around here, you know, no have to, like you should be happy, right? And so everyone is allowed to have the space, to have this space. to feel what they want to feel what they need to feel. And so in this time, I want to give us some space and some silence. I think our bells are up there. I'll pretend I ring a bell. Ding. Let's have a few moments of silence. We send our light, we send our love to everyone who is suffering, everyone who is hurting. Maybe they feel the peace of this community. May they feel the light of the greater love. Amen. The Unitarian poet Henry Wadsworth Longfellow wrote the words to our centering hymn. He wrote it during the Civil War, and he felt such terrible despair. But he finally was able to hear a hopeful message when the bells rang out. Please remain seated and let's sing all 5 verses of hymn number 240. I heard the bells on Christmas Day.
This well-known story took place at the height of World War II and has been repeated many times since then. It was Christmas, 1944. The Battle of the Bulge, with its warplanes and artillery shells, was raging on the Western Front. Deep in the German forest, close to the Belgian border, was a secluded cabin that belonged to a small family. Elizabeth was home with her 12-year-old son, Fritz. That Christmas Eve, 3 American soldiers had been wandering, lost in the forest, when they came upon this cabin. They knocked, startling the mother and son. After all, their nearest neighbors were over 3 miles away. Elizabeth opened the door and saw 3 young soldiers, all armed. 2 were standing, the 3rd was lying in the snow with bleeding from serious wounds. Even young Fritz knew that there was harsh penalties for harboring Americans. Anyone giving aid and comfort to the enemy would be shot. But Elizabeth looked with compassion at the soldier bleeding in the snow. This impossibly young soldier had a mother somewhere. She mentioned for all three to enter the tiny cabin. Soon there was another knock on the door. This time it was German soldiers. She invited them in, but warned them that there were others inside who they would not consider friends. The leading German stared at her until she said in German, "It is the holy night, and there will be no shooting here." She insisted that they leave their weapons outside. After sharing a meal together, one of the Germans who was medically trained tended to the American who was wounded. The truce lasted through the night, and there were even reports of singing. When it was time to leave, the German corporal showed the Americans a map and how to get back to their own lines. They shook hands, and they headed off in opposite directions.
War is a force without restraint. In the thunder of war, few combatants can hear and answer a higher spiritual calling. And yet, the stories that endure from wartime are the ones where someone does answer that higher calling, and humanity shines through the cruelty. Stories where people risk personal danger in order to save others, and where people choose mercy over brutality. For me, peace is the reason for this season. This is the time of year when we remember that each and every one of us is called to be a peacemaker. Now, we often think of peacemaking as the work of ending political conflict or ending big wars. But there is so much more to peace than the absence of armed conflict, of armed violence. Peace is the presence of compassion. Peace is the presence of equity and freedom. The majority of peacemaking involves hundreds of small decisions that we make every day in our interactions with others. Actually, researchers have found a very simple model for sustaining peaceful communities. And by the way, if you like that sort of thing and you're interested in peace research, I put a link to the Sustaining Peace Project in the order of service. So that simple model for sustaining peace is this. It's simply to increase the number of positive, reciprocal interactions so that they outnumber the negative ones. Under those conditions, communities can sustain peace among themselves and with their neighbors for hundreds of years. So what is a positive, reciprocal interaction? Well, holding a door for someone using a walker, or exchanging a few friendly words with a stranger, listening to someone's story, being willing to acknowledge another person's pain. Now, these may feel like insignificant actions, especially while thousands of civilians and soldiers are being killed. But I tell you that these are the seeds and the saplings of peace. So today I want to tell you a few stories about people who are doing what they can in their own way, in their own communities, to create a sustaining peace for everyone. So my first story is about this year's Nobel Prize winner. Do you know the Nobel Peace Prize winner? Do you know who that is? Narges Mohammadi. Unlike some of the other Nobel winners, she did not make startling discoveries about nanotechnology or new economic models or vaccines. As a journalist and as a human rights activist, Narges simply and courageously spoke the truth about the repressive regime in Iran. She spoke. She spoke over and over and over and over again. The regime has arrested her 13 times, and she is currently serving a 10-year jail sentence in Tehran for, quote unquote, spreading anti-state propaganda. Last month in Oslo, her twin 17-year-old children read her speech and accepted the award on her behalf. They have been living in exile and have not seen their mother in over 8 years. Despite this incredibly difficult circumstance for her and her family, she remains optimistic. So here's a portion of her speech. With hope and eagerness, and alongside the resilient and courageous women and men of Iran, I extend my hand to all forces and movements and individuals that focus on peace, the global covenant of human rights, and on democracy. I am confident that the light of freedom and justice will shine brightly in the land of Iran. May it be so. The second story I want to share with you is about someone named Nathan Landau. He's an Israeli man, and after being drafted into the army with all of the other 18-year-olds, Nathan's unit was responsible for arresting and removing Palestinians from their homes. This is what they did, day in and day out. But there was just this one particular operation that cracked something inside of him. It was a very usual and ordinary operation. His team broke into the family's home to make the arrest. Snipers settled in front of the windows, and then Nathan's job was to guard the family at gunpoint. It must have been around 4 a.m., he said, and he was standing with his gun pointed at this petrified family, all in their pajamas. And at that moment, one of the young boys started to wet his pants. On the way back to the base that night, Nathan just couldn't help but to think about that boy over and over again, and who this boy would grow up to be. He couldn't help but think about the endless cycle of violence and about the boy who would perhaps want to take revenge on. He remembered thinking, 1948, 1967, 1973, the first Intifada, the second Intifada. Nathan realized that he would face war again and again, now as a soldier and then later when he entered the reserves. If we didn't stop this violence, he thought his children and their children would be facing war every few years for the rest of their lives. And this was his motivation to join Combatants for Peace, a worldwide movement founded by former fighters from both Palestine and Israel. I put a link to their organization on the order of service if you want to look further into their group. One of the biggest impediments to peace is the inability or the unwillingness to acknowledge the pain of others. So each year, this group, since 2006, have held a joint memorial service, a joint memorial ceremony, mourning their losses together, Palestinian and Israeli parents, spouses, siblings, and friends gather in their grief to remind the world that occupation, oppression, and violence are not inevitable. The next story I have for you is brought to us by the Quaker activist Parker Palmer. It's about someone who has devoted most of his life to resisting the madness of war through his actions of justice and peace. This person just could not bear to be part of the military-industrial complex, and so he made a decision early on to live in poverty so that he didn't have to pay any taxes that would have gone to fund the war machine. And with the little money he did have, he gave it to peace and justice organizations. So what difference did his actions really make? What was the outcome of his sacrifice and his act of resistance? Well, today, the current US military budget is one of the highest in our history. And globally, together, military spending is at an all-time high, at $2 trillion. Imagine what $2 trillion could do for the care of people and care for Earth. It seems that this person's lifelong sacrifice had made no dent in the military budget, and it made no difference at all. And so how does he keep going? How does he keep his commitment to peace? He says, I have never asked myself if what I was doing was effective, but only if I was being faithful. Someone mentioned Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa once said that if we have no peace, it is because we have forgotten that we belong to each other. This last story that I want to share with you comes from our own community. It's about one of our neighbors who has not forgotten who she belongs to. Tonight, at our 8 p.m. Christmas Eve candlelight service, it is our tradition to give away the entire collection to the Pastoral Care Fund. Inevitably, every week, someone calls me, someone comes to the door, either from the congregation or from the local community, asking for some financial assistance. And this year we have given over $5,000 to help pay rent, utility bills, eyeglasses, groceries, gasoline. One day I was working with someone who was about to be evicted from her apartment, and I had several exchanges with someone named Dory in the rental office. Now, I have visited and called lots of different rental companies around town, and she really was the first one that showed any compassion. After everything was settled, she wrote to me saying, "In the 5+ years that I have worked for blah blah property management company, I have witnessed more and more tenants having difficulties making their monthly obligations. The cold weather seems to be hardest on everyone, but I have also witnessed the kindness and generosity of strangers willing to help others when they can. I have seen this too." This is one of the things that I really love about living here. This is a remarkable community of kind and generous people who make peace every day in the small, positive interactions with one another. In this season of light, we plead for peace. Give peace, O Lord, give peace. Da pacem Domine, da pacem Domine. And all the while, she shakes her head, saying, "Hey, I've given you all the seeds that you will ever need." Amen.
There was a person who wanted peace in the world and peace in their heart and all sorts of good things, but they were very frustrated. The world seemed to be falling apart all around them. They would read the papers and get depressed. One day, they came upon a store they had never seen before. Going up and down the aisles, they saw peace on earth. No more war, no hunger, no poverty. Peace in families, no more harm, harmony, clean air, careful use of resources. They made a long list of all the things they wanted and took it to the store clerk and said, "I would like all of these things, please." "No problem," said the clerk, and the clerk bent down behind the counter and picked up all sorts of things and stood up and laid out a bunch of packets. "What are these?" The clerk replied, "Seed packets. This is a seed store." "You mean I don't get to take away peace and feed all the hungry?" "No, this is a place of dreams. You come and see what it looks like, and I give you the seeds, and you go plant them. You go home and you nurture them and you help them grow, and someone else reaps the benefits." When Rev Jen told me that story, I had never heard it before. I mean, I suppose I could have, and I don't remember, but not remembering washes out to not knowing sometimes. This month, our offering goes to the general fund, and we, all of us, are the seeds each other take home to plant. And we ourselves and our actions are the seeds themselves. We plant seeds of peace and hope when we gather, when we make coffee and open a door, ask after a new friend or make a new friend. Everything we do as people plants seeds. Some of those seeds we want to plant deeper, and some we may dig up. As a community, we are sowers of hope, and we hold the faith of peace. We may not even see it, having walked away already, but we can know it blooms for those who come after us. As you give today, plant a seed of peace to strengthen our community. Say a word of hope as the basket passes, and give what you can, and hold in your heart the truth that how you are and who you are is beloved. You are loved.
Our closing hymn today is another familiar tune to most, if not all. And the holly thought to have some protective properties and also cherished for keeping the world green in the winter months. Please rise in body or in spirit and join in singing hymn number 235, Deck the Halls with Boughs of Holly.
And now let's say together the words of our closing. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. I want to thank all the musicians today, Catherine and Bob and Joe. As always, Suzanne. And then today, our wonderful guest violinist, Kara Eubanks. Thank you so much for being here. So I know it is our custom and habit to get really, really loud kind of at this point. But I want to ask you, if you will, listen to Kara's final song for our postlude. They've got one more piece. So I know that a lot of you are anxious to just start gabbing with your neighbors, but if we could just enjoy one more piece from Kara, that would be wonderful. And I hope you all have a very Merry Christmas. Go in peace.